Hey, everybody. Today for you, podcast number 70. Today's podcast is titled, Everyone Needs to Know Where to Go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Lombardi, and sitting next to me is my beautiful wife, Sandy. Say hi, Sandy.
Hello.
Yeah. And if you notice, Sandy does have a little bit of a head cold going on. She's getting better, so don't worry. She's going to be fine. But you'll notice a little bit of a different change in her tone and or as far as her voice goes. But we always want to start the podcast off by thanking you for tuning in and subscribing, like, follow, share, all that great stuff. But it does make a difference when you guys reach out to us and just let us know that you enjoyed the podcast. So we appreciate that and keep the positive vibes going. And hopefully this year will be a better year yet for not only the podcast, but your own personal life and your own goals and journey that you're on. So, the Limitless Life Network is really about helping you not only to reach your goals, but to really uncovering what's limiting you from living the life that you were called to lead. So today we have 5 amazing points, I believe, that are tried and true, and they're going to be very helpful. Happy New Year to everyone. You know, we're recording on January 2, second day of the year. And we just got back from, a couple days up at our camp in the North Country of New York State in the Adirondacks. And it seems like it's become a tradition in our family, hasn't it, that we go up for New Year's. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that I started a few years ago was taking the kids out into the wilderness in the winter and having a game of them having a little contest amongst themselves to build a winter shelter. And I would, critique their work and give them, like awards for winning the best shelter contest. And then at nighttime, I would have them try to see who could build a fire themselves. I'd give them each a Bic lighter and say, go for it. You can only use what you find in the woods. And it could be wet, cold, raining. It doesn't matter, but they've got to try to build this shelter. And it's been really fun to watch them learn and grow over the years. And I wasn't going to do it this year because it was just our 2 youngest were with us, our son Timothy and our daughter Grace. But Timothy wanted to go. He's like, let's go do the winter shelter building contest. So
he just assumed we were going to do it.
Yeah, he just said, hey, let's do it. So we went out and and they worked together this time. They decided instead of doing solo shelters, they wanted to try to work as a team. Mm-hmm. So that was very interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Grace's idea.
That was Grace's idea.
She wanted to be on Tim's team.
So that was fun. But from that, we have 5 points that I think are timeless when it comes to helping people to grow in their life, to reach goals, to meet with better success. And point number 1 is, do you have a destination in mind? What do you think about that, Sandy?
Mm-hmm. Well, as we start the new year, are we just taking each day by day without a plan, or do we have specific goals and plans set out of things we want to accomplish? We talked about an analogy of a ship previous podcast. If you're in the ship, do you have an end point in mind that you are steering towards?
Yeah, imagine being on a cruise ship and you leave the harbor, but you don't know where you're going, and you actually don't even have a captain or a crew.
And there's no expectation, I guess, with that,
Right.
You don't have an expectation of where you're going to end up, and the same in life. Like, we need to have some expectation of where we're going.
Yeah, it could be fun, but it could also be dangerous. It could also be a disaster. I like the idea of having a destination. It actually gives me more peace and more focus when I have a destination, because you know what you're working on, you know where you're going to. So that is a timeless principle that has been written about in many books of different authors who are supposed gurus on the topic of success. And they all say begin with the end in mind, have a destination, have a chief aim, whether you're reading Napoleon Hill or Stephen Covey, all of these different authors out there, they all know that this is success. Success you have to have some type of goal in mind there. All right, that brings us to point number 2, which is develop a burning desire. Tell me about that.
Well, when you were speaking, I was thinking the destination, we have to be able to visualize that in our mind. Like when we close our eyes, we should be able to visualize that destination that we're working toward. So if we have this burning desire, that vision never leaves us. Like it's just constantly there. When you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about that goal. There has to be that fire, that deep desire to get there. Otherwise, the first time there's any roadblock, we throw up our hands and quit. So the desire has to be greater than the obstacles that you're going to face.
So, going back to our analogy of the kids building a shelter, they know that this is a game. So they're doing it for fun and they're taking their time. And, we had to put a little bit of a time limit on it, but they're not actually spending the night in this shelter.
Right.
So if it was a real life and death situation, they would take it much more seriously and they would literally have to try it and they would see what works and what doesn't work. And they wouldn't have a choice. That would create the burning desire because the burning desire would be to survive. And oftentimes we don't have something of that level of magnitude where something's compelling us and pulling us forward with that level of commitment, so to speak.
Yep.
And, sometimes goals that people set are just not worthy goals to even pursue because you're not that passionate about them to begin with. So why bother setting the goal in the first place? And I've come to realization that oftentimes I had set goals in the past because I thought that's what I should do. And they were meaningless goals to me. They really didn't matter. And when you strip it all away, there's certain things that do matter to you, and it's usually based on what you value more. Right? So
good point.
Burning desire. All right, that brings us to point number 3, and that is what? You
Action.
must take action. You must take action. There's that word that everybody knows but doesn't always like if it's something that you're not inclined to do. So tell us about this one, Sandra.
Well, I think action is requiring us to move out of one spot to another, right? So are we comfortable where we're at? It's familiar. Possibly this new goal is going to take you into unfamiliar, uncomfortable situations or new opportunities. So are you willing to step out in maybe some fear towards that new goal and destination? Will you take the action that it requires?
And oftentimes people will say that I don't like to do that, right? Like I don't like to travel or I don't like to go to big meetings or, whatever it might be. I don't like to do that. But that's where your opportunities are, and that's required, this level of action. So when we meet with a little bit of resistance of things maybe we don't like to do, but those actions and those habits and those behaviors, they become the the steps to get to where you're trying to go. If you have a burning desire, point number 2, then your likelihood of taking action is actually greater. So number 2 helps you with number 3.
Right.
If number 2 is not very strong, then number 3 becomes much more difficult.
Right. The why has to be important enough to you.
Yeah. And it's not just a why. It's a deeper feeling of like, wow, I really desire this. Right. So yeah, that's good. That's a good one. So point number 4 is you are a creature of habit. Tell me about that one, Sandy. You're smiling about this one.
Well, we all repeat similar things, whether it be the time that we wake up, the time that we're used to eating. We have these rituals or routines that we follow. Would you explain a little bit? I was thinking of the pathways in the brain and how that, we form these pathways and firings.
Okay, so when you do an activity the very first time, it's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And your brain has to use more energy to actually complete a task because you're consciously thinking of how to do everything.
Like I think of Grace learning a guitar right now. That's a
Learning the
good, right?
guitar is a
Like,
good example.
mm-hmm.
Learning how to do a gymnastic skill or jumping rope for the first time, riding a bike for the first time. But the more that you do it and those pathways become familiar in your brain, they actually fire quicker. And there's a point at which your brain will actually skip steps and you will fill in the blanks, so to speak. And that gives you a faster response time. So if you're watching, like, say, a professional athlete doing, this amazing one-handed catch in a football game, like to us to go out and try to do that, it would be so awkward and it would be awful. But to them, they can do it with another, professional athlete draped all over their body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, I just did that. No big deal. And it all happens lightning quick. So,
Right.
so the same thing with creating a habit. The first time you do it, it's a lot of mental energy and it's slow and it's awkward and it's clunky. But the more you repeat that habit, the more you start to develop the skill
Mm-hmm.
to neurologically complete the habit, and it becomes easier and easier. And your brain likes that. Your brain likes efficiency. And so then if you can anchor a habit to a positive reward, that is really where the
Mm-hmm.
secret sauce is.
Okay.
So if you say want to exercise, and like this is a great example I use, is that if I want to exercise, I know I have to, but I also want to create another habit of reading, right? So I've got these habits I want to create. Well, I will withhold something I like a cup of coffee in the morning. And I can't have my coffee until I've done my reading and maybe my workout. But then you can have your coffee. But if you shortchange yourself and you just drink the coffee first, then why do I need to exercise? Why do I need to even read this morning?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can anchor it with a positive behavior as well. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
have found that helpful for
But
me as well.
everybody has habits right now. So you guys are a master at habits and habit creation, habit formation, and you're following those habits. So realize that to break those habits and to create new habits, it's going to be clunky at first. So do one thing at a time and really get that good for, like, say, 60, 90 days, because then you will have had enough neural programming where it's now your new behavior.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that brings us to point number 5. And this is a great point. And it's what really keeps the ship floating, I think. It keeps the crew happy, and that's your attitude. It prevents mutiny. Attitude is everything. So to prevent sabotage, this is a really important point. You can sabotage your own goals and dreams and desires just based upon your attitude. And attitude is an emotional response, and it's actually a choice too.
Yeah.
So how would you describe it?
Well, you made me think of Grace and I just finished our homeschooling for the day and first day back after break. And here, attitude from both of us was very important for us to accomplish a short-term goal of our work for the day. And I think so for many of us, whether we're leading people in our business, we're leading in the home, homeschooling, your attitude is so important for those following you. So, if I come at the day grumpy, tired, back at it, guess what Grace's attitude's going to be? But we were both excited to get back in and have some structure. And so our day went really well and done quickly. So I think that's key, is the attitude that we bring to each day, every situation, or whatever we're part of, whether we're leading or following, whether we have, even if as a follower, we need to come in with the right attitude.
Yeah. That's very good. Yeah, it seems like that our attitude will influence the attitude of the others around us too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those, as Sean Dill would say, one of those mirror moments where,
Okay. Yeah.
people will mirror your attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of an interesting concept in and of itself. So, but anything else you want to add?
Don't think so.
Okay, well, that was great. And thank you all for tuning in to this week's podcast. We hope and pray that this year is a great year for everyone. And thank you for tuning in and staying connected, being inspired. And we just want to help you to keep moving toward your best life by stripping away your limitations. And we will be seeing you back next week for another edition.
Have a great week.